Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today and welcome to this webinar, How to Promote Your Health Education Skills for Careers in the Field. We are ready to get started. Please mute yourself if you are not currently one of our presenters, and we look forward to having you come online when we do the Q&A portion of today's event. The Society for Public Health Education is an inclusive organization of health professionals, and we welcome your whole self. Before I hand it over to our speakers today, I would like to cover some housekeeping items. First, please know that all attendees are muted for the duration of today's webinar. After hearing from our presenters, we will have a brief question and answer session with the time remaining. Questions can be submitted at any time during the webinar by typing in the chat box. And for those who may be on phone only, you may dial *9 to raise your hand. Additionally, this session has enabled an automatic closed captioning. To add closed captioning, please click on the CC button in your Zoom taskbar to enable subtitles. Rename yourself if you have not done so already, and you may also use the reactions at any time during the presentation to engage with our presenters. We value your feedback and ask you to complete the feedback survey that is found on the webinar drop-down menu immediately following today's webinar. Your evaluations of this program will assist us in planning future webinars. Please know that today's webinar will be archived on Sophie's eLearn at CORE, the Center for Online Resources and Education. To those watching, you will receive an email from Sophie to access the recording within 48 hours. An application has been granted for one entry-level Category 1 Continuing Education Contact Hour, or CECH. This program is designated for Certified Health Education Specialists and/or Master Certified Health Education Specialists to receive up to a total of one CECH. For those who chose to apply for continuing education credit, please visit Sophie's eLearn at CORE and sign in with your MySophie account. CE fees will not apply to this webinar as it is being offered as a free CECH opportunity. Our next quarterly report is January of 2022, and NCHEC will update your transcript by the end of the month. Sophie's mission is supporting leaders in health education and promotion to advance health equity in communities across the globe. Our members include health education professionals and students throughout the United States and internationally. The organization promotes healthy behaviors, healthy communities, and healthy environments through its membership, its network of local chapters, and its numerous partnerships with other organizations. Now, please allow me to introduce today's moderator, Ellen Robertson, APCP Project Director with the Vital Initiative in the School of Social Work at the University of Alabama. On behalf of Sophie, we are pleased with the interest in today's webinar and thankful that you've all taken the time out of your day to participate.
Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce you to today's speakers. Our first speaker is Kyle Elliott. He is a career coach and mental health advocate who is relentlessly authentic and loves sharing his whole truth with the world. As a professional speaker, he regularly presents to Fortune 100, 500 companies, hypergrowth startups, and universities on professional development, personal branding, and mental health in the workplace. Kyle holds a BS in health education, an MPA from one of the globe's top public policy universities, and is currently pursuing an EDD in adult education. He has been CHES certified since 2014. Our second speaker is Dr. Monica Latham Dye, and she is the Operations Research Analyst with the Food and Drug Administration. Previously, she worked at 2M Research Services, where she served as Director and Senior Evaluation Team Lead. She earned a doctorate of public health from Morgan State University and has been a certified health education specialist for over 15 years. She is a recent recipient of the 2021 Albert Nelson Marquis Lifetime Achievement Award and is CEO of Think and Imagine Incorporated. Our third speaker is Stephanie Hunter. She is a learning and development professional with experience in the private, public, and nonprofit sectors. She is passionate about strengthening the skills of people working in health and wellness field, as evidenced by the 1,500 health coaches she trained in 2020. Stephanie is a certified health education specialist, a national board certified health and wellness coach, and a Love of Learning Award recipient. And our fourth speaker is LaTanya Bynum. She holds a Bachelor's of Science in Health Education with a concentration in community health and Spanish, and a Master's in Public Health with an emphasis in public health policy and management. Bynum is a CHES credential holder and is preparing for the NCHES exam this coming fall. In 2017, Bynum founded URA Resource Center, LLC, a public health consulting firm specializing in writing, public speaking, and research. So for today, our learning objectives are that by the end of this webinar, you will be able to describe how health education specialists in various settings promote their value, training, and skills for career opportunities in the field while involving the health education process in meaningful ways. Now, to learn more about you, our attendees, we have our first poll question, and we would like you to please respond. Are you currently a student, a recent graduate, or a professional? So if you will please respond to the poll question, we'll give you just a few seconds, very briefly. All right, so it looks like the majority, we have a majority of professionals, some students, and a few recent graduates. And we want to thank you all for joining us today. I think everybody will learn something. So our last poll question is, are you currently actively job searching, working in the field of health education and promotion, working but not in the field of health education and promotion, or other? There you go. So if you will choose which one you fall into really quickly. All right, so it looks like that we have a good spread with the majority of you working in the field of health education and promotion. So again, thank you all, no matter what level you're at, are going to learn something from today's webinar. So please type any questions that you have during the presentation into the chat box, and we'll address those at the end. So I'm going to turn the mic over to Kyle.
Ellen, thank you so much for that introduction, and I'm excited to be talking about how to caffeinate your job search. I'm actually delivering this workshop later today for a university. It's a 2-hour workshop that I've condensed into 10 minutes. So I'm excited to be attempting to condense it into 10 minutes and see how we get. If you could go to the next slide, Ellen, that would be great. So a little bit more about me. As Ellen shared, I'm a CHES. I'm also a career coach. So in a nutshell, I help people find jobs they love. So all of you looking for jobs, you're in the right spot. And then once people find jobs, I help them hit the ground running in those jobs. So for those of you already in jobs, I can help you as well. And my clients are really at any healthcare organization, nonprofit, private organization you can think of: Kaiser, Tenet Health, McKesson, Apple, startups, you name it. And then importantly, I'm also a Disneyland Legacy Pass holder. So I used to live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and then my partner JV on the left, he loves Disneyland. So he's like, let's move to LA to be close to Disneyland. I do not like the heat. I prefer San Francisco weather, Seattle weather. So we compromised and moved to Santa Barbara last year for his job in healthcare. He actually works for one of the oldest nonprofit healthcare organizations in this area. So he works for Samsung. And today I'm going to share some of the tips we use to help him find a job. So the first step will be, how do you caffeinate yourself? So if we head to the next slide, I'm going to be talking a bit about how you caffeinate yourself. In other words, how do you stand out from all the other job seekers out there? And if Ellen will head to the next slide, I'll share really my tip for that. I call it owning your fabulousness. In other words, the average job posting out there receives 250 applications. And this stat is from before the Great Resignation. I haven't been able to find any stats since the Great Resignation, since the pandemic. So before the Great Resignation, one job posting would receive 250 applications. So what that means is you're competing against all these other people for a job. And a lot of people come to me and say, Kyle, I've applied to 100 or 500 or 1,000 or sometimes 10,000 jobs, and they haven't heard back or landed a job. And my solution is to own your fabulousness. In other words, your job is to figure out what sets you apart from the other 250,000 or 10,000 people applying for that same job? And my answer is your fabulousness. So the very first question I ask people is, what sets you apart from all the other people applying for this job? And then I ask and people say, I have no idea, Kyle. That's a really difficult question. I'm like, well, that's what I get paid for, difficult questions. So my solution is, it's okay. You don't have to know the answer. I want you to text 3 people. What makes me fabulous? And a lot of people don't know this because I do big speaking engagements, but I'm a huge introvert. So having 3 friends is a lot of friends. I only have 2 really best friends. So if you don't have 3 friends, you can text your mom, you can text your dad, you can text a family member, a partner, a classmate. But I want you to text 3 people right now. What makes me fabulous? And don't give them any context. Don't say, hey, I'm watching this really caffeinated Disney lover do a presentation. I just want you to text them, what makes me fabulous? And then as you get their responses, I want you to see, are there any trends? Is everyone saying, hey, you're really organized? Is everyone saying you're really dependable? Is everyone saying you're a great team player? What are the trends you're noticing? And then as we head into part 2, this is where it's going to come into play. And I do this with all of my clients. I give them this homework, even CEOs and executives in Silicon Valley. I make them text people what makes them fabulous. And I like using this on LinkedIn. And if we head to the next slide, Ellen, I'm going to show where I like using this on LinkedIn. When we go on LinkedIn, it's one of my favorite tools. One more slide, Ellen. It's one of my favorite tools because there's over 600 million. Actually, I got this stat this morning, 740 million people on LinkedIn. Every day they're adding users. And I love LinkedIn because you're literally 1 click away from 740 million people. I've reached out to CEOs. I reached out to the vice chair of GE because I wanted to work there. I've literally, out of thousands of people I've reached out to, I've only had 1 person ever tell me they weren't interested in chatting with me or a client. And that's what I love about LinkedIn. When we're on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, we're kind of just scrolling through. But on LinkedIn, people are there to network and develop themselves. So I found when I reach out on LinkedIn and say, hey, I have a client that wants to work at TikTok, will you chat with them? People say yes and actually reply to me. So that's what I love about LinkedIn. And when you're sleeping, if you have love about LinkedIn, and when you're sleeping, if you have an amazing LinkedIn, people will reach out to you and say, hey, Kyle, will you come speak? Hey, Kyle, will you help me with my career? Hey, Kyle, we have this project, will you work on it? So on the next slide, I'll show you a really quick way to update your LinkedIn profile. And this is why I asked for your fabulousness. On LinkedIn, there's this headline section where a lot of people, right under their name, right under their picture, just say, hey, I'm a barista at Starbucks. And I love Starbucks. There's nothing wrong with being a barista at Starbucks or a cast member at Disneyland, but it doesn't show what's fabulous or sets you apart from the tens of thousands of baristas at Starbucks or cast members at Disneyland. So this is where you can say, here's what makes me fabulous and sets me apart from everyone else, is this really quick headline formula. So my partner, JV, I showed you, his next job, he wants to be a patient access manager in healthcare. He's a patient access supervisor right now. And one of the biggest areas of expertise that he would have to leverage is physician and patient relations. So that's what he could put here. And then his fabulousness, everyone he reached out to said, JV, you're collaborative, you're a great team player. So I'm like, what's kind of unique about that? And fun fact, he was a former nationally ranked collegiate athlete. He was super, super good at tennis. So I was like, let's put that there. So as soon as people talk to him, they start asking about tennis. And then he talks about how he connects that to his current work now and leverages his tennis skills in his day-to-day work. And then if we go to the next slide, I'll show an example of what you could use. Let's say you're a current, someone says I'm a current MPH student. You could say, hey, I'm targeting public health educator roles. So if I'm a recruiter looking for health educators for an opening at Apple or Kaiser or Tenet, I could say, let me go find health educators on LinkedIn, and you would pop up. But if there's 10,000 health educators on LinkedIn, you would then pop up because I might put the word community outreach or epidemiology, and then it weeds down to 100. And I'm like, oh, what's fabulous about you is you're bilingual in English and Spanish. Or you could put you're a Disneyland legacy pass holder, and then it weeds you down even further. Or you worked at the School of American Ballet. That's something I did once. Or you were in an MTV commercial. Or One of my clients was like, "Ooh, I have 4 different languages I got fluent in from Duolingo." Whatever a lot of people said about you in those texts, if you start noticing themes, you can put it in that headline to really call out, here's what sets me apart from everyone else that has these same qualifications. And if we head to the next slide, we'll see there's some other places you can use this tagline as well. This is kind of like Nike, just do it. They don't just say, just do it and then leave it on their website. You'll see it in their store. You'll see it on their packaging. You see it on their t-shirts. This becomes your brand and your identity really quickly. You spend 10 minutes on this activity, and then you can use it on your resume, your LinkedIn, your cover letter. On your Instagram, you can use it there. I've had clients where recruiters reached out to them on there, or Twitter. When you're networking, you can say, hey, I'm targeting patient access roles. My expertise is physician relations, patient relations. Oh, and fun fact, I'm a Disneyland Legacy Pass holder. Or, oh, hey, I spent a summer in Paris. And really, this becomes your tagline and how people know you. And that fabulousness sticks in the back of their mind. It can also be a point of connection. And if we head to the next slide, this is a little bit of homework. I think any good kind of presentation I do, I like leaving with homework. And I have a picture of Kris Jenner there, because a lot of people say I'm kind of the momager for their career. So I want you to text 3 more people what makes me fabulous. Every time I do this workshop, I text a few people that I haven't before what makes me fabulous. And I always get new and different insights. I want you to finalize your LinkedIn headline. I believe we're sharing these slides, so you can go through and do this activity, and then connect with me on LinkedIn, and you can check out my headline and go through my recommendations and see how some of my clients have done their headlines as well. And then on this last slide, you'll see a course I do. It's a free 5-day course, and I talk about your LinkedIn, your resume, networking, all of the components of the job search. And there's different PDFs you can download to really just guide you through your job search and help you. And I think I have a minute left. So we condensed 2 hours into 10 minutes. I realized that was fast, but I believe we covered enough to really help you just stand out again from those other 250 plus people applying for the same role as you. And at the end of the day, the key is to own your fabulousness and say, here's what sets me apart from the same people applying for this role as me.
Thanks, Kyle. My name is Dr. Monica Latham, and first I want to add a disclaimer that I am not representing the federal government, and the thoughts and statements and opinions are actually my own. Let me see if I can move this camera a little bit. Today, I'll discuss how to promote your health education skills to advance your career, with a particular focus on networking in the digital world. Could you go back to the previous slide, please? So I'm going to be talking about 5 areas. A little bit about me, the overarching CHES areas of responsibility, my career journey, the importance of networking and how to do it, as well as tackling the next steps and doing a little homework similar to how to what Cal did. Next slide, please. So let's begin with the CHES areas of responsibility, beginning with the accessing the needs of the community and your audience, also developing plans, implementing those plans you set forth, evaluating and researching what works and where there is room for growth. Also being an advocate, so really providing recommendations and technical assistance, and then really communicating and disseminating information and ideas. Further, it's important to emerge as a leader, and similar to what Kyle was saying, really being able to execute your fabulousness, and then demonstrating the highest ethical and professional standards. Next slide. So here, I'm linking a little bit of my career journey and mapping it against the CHES areas of responsibility. Understanding that this maps my career primarily after its post-MPH, but it gives you a demonstration of my professional journey. And it also maps it against nonprofit, public service, whether it be federal, state, and private service. So understanding that using your health education skills as well as the CHES, if you do have it, really enables you to branch out and hone in on a lot of skills that are transferable. So note that in public service here, a lot of times you don't get to advocate quite as much, but because I was an evaluator for many years, most of my career, that skill followed me. So really honing in on what you're good at, but then also utilizing those skills that you gain from either involvement with Sophie or the skills that you've gained through your health education. Being a health education specialist is truly important. But overall, planning and leadership and communication has always been key in any position that I've acquired, and probably in most positions throughout someone's career. For this particular presentation, I really want to focus on communication and more specifically networking. Next slide. So with the emergence of COVID, the digital world has become more and more the new normal, where it's critical to professional growth to really know how to hone in on your networking skills. And like the saying goes, sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know. So I hope to share some insights on how to do both. Hone in on the skills that you have, expand on the skills that you have, as well as network in a digital world. And then, so I'll provide some tips on not only why it's important, but also how to do it. And also note that in the NCHEC fall bulletin, there's actually an article on networking in a digital world that's featured, and we really encourage you to check it out. It'll give you more details. Next slide. So why is networking important? Well, I'll give you 5 good reasons. It allows you to exchange ideas and innovate. You can collaborate and establish partnerships that really builds bridges. You can also promote diversity and broaden your outlook. It also gives you the opportunity to create and leverage additional exposure and foster growth. And then you can really boost your confidence and enable you to be your authentic self and show your fabulousness, as Kyle had mentioned before. Next slide. So it's not enough to know why it's important, but it's also important to know some key points or elements on how it's done. So as a health educator, obviously, you don't want to just know why, but how. What are some tools that we can use to implement it? One is to broaden your reach through social media. I think Kyle mentioned LinkedIn, which is a great resource. Also, there are other, when you go to LinkedIn, you can join groups that are associated with Sophie, that are associated with NCHEC. Really hone into some professional groups that warm your spirit and really are places that you want to that you want to go in your career journey. Another thing is to join online groups. So you can join online groups to also get some key information and share other thoughts around your career. You can also utilize and join listservs. So whether it be your alma mater, whether it be ECHO, listservs have a plethora of information. You can really stay current on different events. And I know a lot of times my alma mater would send me things on the listserv with, like, it's actually a lot of job opportunities are vetted that way as well. And so they're not just a thing of the past. A lot of times people think that listservs or emails are not as relevant, but stay tuned that way and make sure that you're staying in touch. Also, you should be proactive. So research ideas and opportunities that interest you. So seek out leaders and schedule informational interviews. I think Kyle mentioned that as well when he was talking about going to LinkedIn, looking at some leaders that might have already gone through the journey of where you potentially want to go, and then kind of see how they got there, and also see what some of the things are that are required to get on that path, or if there are any opportunities in that area. And then last but not least, attend virtual events like the event that you're attending now. Sophie has a plethora of events, APHA annual meeting. Also, NCHEC has a lot of virtual learning opportunities as well. So being able to really refine your skills through these virtual events. Next slide. So my take homes are leverage your health education skills. If you're not a CHES yet, get certified. If you're not a part of Sophie, get involved, become a member. Also, to utilize the CHES in the Sophie and the health education family and stay connected. Networking is key. And also take advantage of the technology to expand your reach. So we're in a technological world, take advantage of that. And then remember, you're not alone, and no one does it alone. So utilize your health education resources and networks. And again, shameless plug, if you're not already CHES, become CHES, join and get certified, and you will not regret it. So the next slide. This is just a summary of some resources that might be helpful. Next slide. And then one of my favorite quotes is, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. And so having said that, the takeaways in your homework is how will you gain or leverage your CHES skills if you have a CHES, or if not, how will you leverage your health education skills or skills that you have in order to get to that next step? And then lastly, what networking strategies that I described today will you maximize? And so that actually concludes my portion of the presentation, and get to it.
Thanks so much, Kyle and Monica. I will take it away from here. Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie Hunter. I am a project coordinator for a large mobile health technology company that helps to connect individuals with virtual health coaches. So specifically, I work within our learning and development department to train health coaches to be prepared to actually coach other individuals. But my L&D experience expands far beyond my current experience now. I have training and learning and development experience in the nonprofit and state government sectors as well. I'm a certified health education specialist and a national board certified health and wellness coach. And part of my fabulousness, as Kyle would say, is that I am a nutrition and health nerd. I am so passionate about all things nutrition and health, and I love to pair that with my experience in training and education to help prepare other people to carry out health education. Next slide, please. So what I'm here to talk with you about today is a little bit more of an introduction to the world of health education, as well as how the Certified Health Education Specialist certification can assist you in your career development. So my presentation is going to be geared a little bit more for folks who are just starting out in health education, or for folks who are looking to reinvent themselves in their career in health education. Next slide, please. So first, let's start with what types of careers you can have in the health education field. There are so many different forms of workplace settings that you can get involved in to conduct health education in different spaces. So I'll just go through some examples here to give you some ideas of where you might be able to get involved. In the government sector, it is very common to find health education specialists in the state, federal, and local health departments. In the healthcare sector, you can see folks working in hospitals, doctors' offices, health insurance groups, and other health-related offices that relate to health or clinical care alongside with health education. Health education specialists can also work in universities and in academia, whether that's at the collegiate level or within the K through 12 level, both in the private and public school spaces, both working with students and or with staff who are in those spaces as well. In the community sector, health education specialists can work with civic organizations or coalitions to help build the health of a neighborhood or a community area. And finally, in the business sector, health education specialists work in nonprofits, they work for corporate settings, they might work for corporate wellness organizations, they might work for organizations with another health focus. You can see that there's a broad spectrum of workplace settings that you can conduct health education within. And from my own experience, I have had professional experience in every single one of these locations. So I will talk a little bit more about my experience throughout my presentation. But within the workplace settings, there's also so many different fields within health education itself. There's so many different types of health education that can be conducted, and the type of health education that you get involved with is going to be influenced by not only your interests, but the skills that you currently have and the skills that you want to develop. So this list is by no means a comprehensive list. It's just a taster of all the different types of work that is out there. So if you're thinking about how you want to get started in your career with health education, I encourage you to think through what topics you're most passionate about and what skills you currently have or are interested in developing. From my own personal experience from this list, I have worked in school nutrition policy and in training for school nutrition professionals. I've worked in health coaching, both as a health coach and as a trainer of other health coaches. I've worked in corporate training and development. I've worked in cultural competency and DEI education, and I've also worked in academia and grant writing for health education focused fields. So you can see that even within this list here, you don't necessarily need to choose just one topic that you're interested in pursuing. You can combine different topics and grow and evolve them over your career to meet your interests and your skills. Next slide, please. So next, I want to talk a little bit more about those skills. I've mentioned talking about the skills that you have, the skills that you want to develop, because those influence the field of health education that you might choose to go into. By pursuing the Certified Health Education Specialist certification, you're able to demonstrate to the world that you have a specific set of skills that are standardized as a part of that certification. Keep in mind that the purpose of certification is to standardize the term health education specialist and give us a common communication point for telling other people what a health education specialist is or does. So Monica mentioned those 8 areas of responsibility for health education specialists, and those are a very specific set of skills that you can refer to in your networking or in your job interview process as things that you are capable of doing as a health education specialist. So by pursuing the certification, you're able to communicate that you can assess health needs and capacity, whether at the organizational level, the community level, or individual level. You're able to plan health education programs and implement them in different settings. You're able to conduct evaluation and research related to health education programs. You're able to advocate not only for the health education field, but also for policy and to help yourself be a resource person for health education information. You're able to communicate both on the individual and community level to help as part of that implementation process of health education programming. And lastly, you're able to lead and manage programs professionally and with a set of ethics that is standard throughout certified health education specialist roles. So as you can see here, being familiar with these 8 areas of responsibility and the skills that come behind them give you talking points to be able to communicate the things you're capable of doing as a health education specialist, and you can then translate that into the specific field of health education that you want to pursue. Next slide, please. So as you're thinking through, how do I want to determine my career path? Where do I want to go? What do I want to work in? I encourage you to think through a couple of questions to help yourself consider where you might want to go next. Start to think about what topics you are most passionate about. Think about the skills you're currently good at or your current academic or professional experience have prepared you with to be able to talk through. And think about the problems that you want to solve as part of your career, because the answers to all of these questions are going to help to give you answers that are going to tell you the type or field of work that's going to invigorate you and make you feel the most fulfilled in your career. And keep in mind that the answers to these questions might change over your career, and that's okay too, because your career can grow and evolve with you. I know that it has for me. I knew that at the beginning of my career, I wanted to help people live healthier lives. And I thought that the only way to do that was to go to medical school and become a doctor. And I soon realized that was not the only way to help people be healthy. So I learned to explore health education and nutrition through many different fields. I've worked in SNAP outreach and public health benefits, in food access, in school nutrition policy and training for school nutrition to help kids have healthier environments for food. And now finally, I am working in health coaching, and specifically within training for health coaching. So throughout all of those career changes that I've had, I've been able to build specific sets of skills through the support of health education, and I've been able to translate those skills from field to field and workplace setting to workplace setting. And that's helped me to grow and evolve my career to become something that I'm passionate about and helps me to meet my own values and needs, even through all the diversity that I've had in it. Next slide, please. So finally, just to wrap up my session before I pass it over to Latanya, some next steps that I want to encourage you to think about are to identify the topics and the skills that you are most passionate about and just start seeking information about them. Whether it's attending virtual events, reading books, connecting on LinkedIn, any type of information you can get about the topic and skills and the fields you're interested in, learn about it and connect with people that can help you to learn about it. And a couple of other folks have mentioned the power of LinkedIn. I will second that. Use LinkedIn to explore jobs that might be of interest to you and fields that are of interest to you. You can use LinkedIn to not only connect with people, but also with groups that share a similar topic interest that you have, or organizations that you want to follow. So that can really help you keep with current events and current trends that are happening in the fields that you're interested in. And finally, familiarize yourself with those 8 areas of responsibility and be prepared to talk about them and be prepared to talk about how your experience aligns with those skills of health education and the NCHEC certification. That is all that I have for you in my presentation for today. So I'll see you again at the Q&A, and I'll send it on over to Latanya.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for handing it over. Great presentations, Kyle and Monica. Hello, everyone, all 341 of you. My name is Latanya Bynum. I am originally from Hot Springs, Arkansas. I'm actually the family first. Let me ask you guys, how many of you are the family first to receive a bachelor's and a master's degree? Write FF in the chat if you're the family first too. Okay. Yes, so I'm not alone. So I basically had to figure this thing out pretty much by myself. So this is what I've come up with 17 years later. And just to give it back to NCHEC and Sophie is quite an honor. So I have to say that just starting off. My master's degree, like Dr. Ellen said, is in public health with the emphasis in health policy and management. I am a mother of 3, and I've also been married. Next month, it'll be 14 years. So I want all credit for all 14 years. The best job of my life has been working at Kroger, and I worked at Walmart. I worked at Price Cutter, but being a cashier, I think it really helped me with my public health background because, you know, customer service and community engagement, I feel like it's the same thing. I actually retired from the health department in 2017 after about 13 years of service. I started off as a secretary and moved through the ranks. And by the end, after learning SAS and GIS, I was a programmer analyst. After leaving there, I transitioned as a senior program analyst into the world of tech. I always tell folks tech is where it's at, for $5 more. So I went from $8 to $25, from secretary to senior program analyst. And then I jumped over into tech and they gave me an extra $5. I'm like, oh my God, like this is amazing. And doing a little bit less work, I felt, because it was in my niche, my passion for writing. So I spent about four years there at DXC and Gainwell Technologies. And kind of like Kyle was saying, you know, if I could think about my fabulousness and text my people, I would hope they would say these three things. LaTanya is super resourceful. She's very kind. You know, that's that Arkansas Southern hospitality thing going on right there. And she's passionately curious, also known as nosy. So next slide, Ellen, please. The title of my presentation is How to Thrive in the Health Education Industry. Go ahead. Next slide. So a little bit about my background. URA Resource Center, LLC, was actually founded in 2017 in Conway, Arkansas. I recently expanded the business into Florida with some government contracting work. The business actually specializes in writing, public speaking, and research. The vision is really to improve the quality of life of all mankind by sharing resources. And the slogan is tap into your resources. Next slide. An overview a little bit about my presentation. Next slide. A little bit about my presentation. You know, as I was finding my way as a family first in my health education career, I quickly noticed that a lot of the employers that were wanting someone to work in their department, they couldn't figure out what a health educator was. And so I really had trouble communicating that. And so I said to myself, I'm gonna start saying I'm a consultant. And then I'm gonna just figure out what's in this job description, what's on their website, who can I look up on LinkedIn to find out like what do they actually need? And then I'm going to figure that out, and then I'm going to reposition myself as whatever they say their title is, that's what I'm going to become. So here's some tips 17 years later of what I figured out on how to really tap into your health education superpowers. Really explain the CHES and the 7 areas of responsibility, now 8 areas of responsibility, but really explain it in a way that relates to what they need. So if you see something in the job description and they're like, oh my God, we need someone who's really good at assessment, you know, looking at data. Okay, that's that first area of responsibility. Like go in on them, like tell them all about the things that you know about assessment. And, you know, if you pass the CHES exam, go back and get your scores and, you know, use that as documentation and say, hey, I'm proficient in the first area of responsibility. So, you know, here's documentation. That's why I need, you know, 85,000 to do this job. Hint, hint. CHES are super valuable when it comes to, you know, just being resourceful. I always teach my clients, you know, think like a broke health educator with no resources, no pamphlets, no nothing. Like, what do you do in that situation? And so we're typically high performing and always gathering people, you know, just resources and programs that haven't been tapped into. And so that's our superpower. A lot of the skills that we have as consultants, AKA health educators, are transferable to any industry. Kind of like, you know, I started off at the health department in state government, and I transitioned those same skill sets into working in the tech industry. And I didn't know it then until the headhunter reached out to me. But, you know, I was really good in plain language at the health department and writing, you know, explaining things in simple terms. And that translated over into the tech industry and really doing the same thing. So they call it in tech, they call it population health management, and we were calling it public health. And so, you know, just that lingo change, you know, that's what got me my $5 extra. Hint, hint. The resume must be tailored for the job description. So if you're reading the resume, you know, just really pay attention to those words, because those key words are something that needs to pop out in your documentation, on your cover letter, and on your resume. So if it's on there, then they're going to say, oh my God, you benchmarked, like your resume actually got caught in the system, the applicant tracking system. Someone typed that in the chat for me, the applicant tracking system. It took me 4 years after graduating with my undergraduate degree to figure out the applicant tracking system was how I was going to get caught into these systems so that my resume could get to the hiring official so that they could interview me or, pass the benchmarking process. So you really want to set yourself up by using your typical nosiness, and these are called research skills. Just looking online at the websites and, going to people's Facebook pages and kind of seeing what they're talking about, what they're working on. All of those things are going to help you with the cold calling process. And I would say in the past 17 years, I very rarely receive phone calls, but when I do, I typically just want to pour out. But so many of you are just emailing, so I want you guys to stand out and really just reach out through cold calls. Drop a 1 if you're a cold caller. If you reach out on the phone, kind of like Carl does for his clients. He's out there. He's actually communicating with them. Yes, we see some ones. That's good. So if you dropped a 1, tag team with somebody else who's really, kind of shy or, really don't want that extra $5. But it's really a challenge to put yourself out there. But you guys can do it by thinking of yourself as a consultant rather than a health educator, just to start out. Next slide, please, Ellen. So top 7 career tips, when you think about your resume, looking back on it, 17 years early on, if I could just know what I know now, like my resume, like these are the things that I would be paying attention to. So, there's one thing to have a resume with everything that you have on there, just recent stuff, but a CV, a curriculum vitae, somebody type CV in the chat, CV. A CV is a curriculum vitae, and this could go on for pages, right? But what I want you guys to start thinking about is, including every job you've ever had, just going back to those Kroger jobs that, when I worked as a cashier, I was even a janitor, just starting out, a receptionist. And I know that some of the work that I do now really is big on community engagement. And so being able to communicate with the community and go back and look at like all the time, and she's worked with people, like she's been out in the community, so she understands that skill set. So I want you to get in the habit of really taking that CV and compiling everything. And so that when opportunities pop up, you're ready for them and you can quickly take that CV and turn it into a resume, which is like a shortened version of what you would include. And really that job description is going to help you to tailor that resume and put exactly what needs to be on there that speaks to that hiring official and lets them know, hey, I'm the one, pick me. I need the extra $5 or more, because y'all gonna make way more than me. Applicant tracking system, we talked about that before, but including those keywords on the resume document. So after you tailor it from a CV to a resume, you're looking at that job description, like who are they needing? What words are on here? Oh, they're talking all these tech terms. They're not saying public health, they're saying population health management. Oh, they're not saying health education, they're saying health services. So if you want to change those words and put those on your resume, that's going to be key, because the applicant tracking system is going to match those keywords, and then you want to get to it closest to 100% as possible, so your information can get picked up. So you want to read the job description, and one of the things that I really encourage people to do is search by pay and not by title. And so that's really going to help you to, because you know how much you need to pay your loans and your bills and stuff. And so searching by title, sometimes it's like those titles change, and with COVID, everything changed. But some of those titles change, and so you might be overlooking some valuable positions that you could actually do. So when I left the health department, I became a technical editor. I had no clue that those jobs even existed. So if I would have been looking for anything like that, I would have missed out because I didn't know. So copy and pasting and courageously stand out, kind of like everyone has talked about here, Stephanie, Monica, and Kyle, just standing out, just putting yourself out there in those uncomfortable positions is going to help you to uniquely connect. Next slide. Some networking tips. You can read all of these, but one of the things that I really feel like that has helped me in my career the most is being able to share my story. And I felt like for the longest time that I didn't fit in to public health because, I looked different, or I didn't see many people that looked like me in the settings that I was working, or sometimes the community, like I felt like, oh, I don't know what to say or how to connect. And I feel like, by me joining Toastmasters International, it has really helped me to develop my self-confidence in speaking one-on-one and also in groups. And so I would really encourage you guys to, just look over the list here for networking tips, but really work on your story, who you are, where you came from. Some of those things that I initially put in that first slide about, my background and what makes me different from all of you. And then also what makes us the same, because in networking, you really want to be able to connect and find some common interests. Yes, next slide. Top 7 tips for standing out versus fitting in. I talked about that a little, but, here it is. One of the things that I've done, because, I knew after my bachelor's degree, which was really, it was hard. Drop a 1 if you had trouble with the bachelor's degree and you never really wanted to go back to school yes, okay, Erica, me and you are best friends. So after the bachelor's, I was like, I'm just trying to get out here and work and, pay my bills and just, live a little bit before going back to school. But I quickly found out like I needed to set myself apart once again, because after I graduated, it seemed like everybody got a bachelor's degree. And now that I have a master's, everybody got a master's degree. So one of the things that I would encourage you guys really to get into is train.org. Train.org has been my super saver in thinking of myself as a consultant. Right now, I have over 40 programs, and I feel like train.org has helped me to develop my niche. Public health is so broad. What you want to do is develop a niche in something so that you know those words and that lingo for that particular niche. So train.org is key in developing skills and new knowledge related to, I'm sorry, I thought I heard somebody say my name, related to the topic or job description you're going to be applying for. So if in that job description you see a word that you're not familiar with, use your go-getter spirit, jump on train.org and take a 1-hour course and then include that on your certifications and education section on your resume, and that will help you to stand out. Next slide. Lastly, I want to leave you a couple of ideas for, just really skill development and training, because after the degree, it's really good. They love you for the degree, but they're like, where's your experience? Like, what have you done? What sets you apart from everybody else? And like Kyle said, it's so many people applying, like, what's going to make you stand out? One of the tools that I've used in my business since 2017, over 90% of my clients have come from either LinkedIn or either the Black Ladies in Public Health platform. I believe that through these platforms and just sharing consistently online using these social media scheduling tools, it really helps me to engage my network and helps them to think about me when I might be busy doing something else. So your networking could be working in your favor if you take advantage of some of these online tools that are already available to you. Next slide. So that's the end of my presentation. I want to thank everyone for paying attention and tuning in. I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Ellen for the question section. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. We have quite a lot of questions, so we're going to jump into those. If all our presenters want to turn on their cameras, and I'm just going to ask a question and any one of y'all can answer. So first question. What would your advice be for people who struggle with interpersonal communication due to things like autism and ADHD?
This is Latanya. I would highly recommend Toastmasters.org. It has been a saving grace for me, my career, my business, everything that I'm doing. Clubs are meeting virtually right now because of the pandemic. And so I would highly recommend you to connect with a safe place where you can kind of work on your fear of public speaking in that one-on-one setting. And then they also have, meetings that meet at least once a week. So I'm a part of 2 clubs in Arkansas, and I feel like those clubs have really helped with my self-confidence and just fear of saying the wrong thing in front of people, and then maybe, just fear. And so just think about Toastmasters.org, and I'll put that link right here in the chat. But that would be my best advice, Toastmasters.org.
To echo that, I'd echo what Latanya said in terms of a safe space. Even you can practice with your friends. You can also practice with family members, but practice. Once you start practicing, it gets a lot easier. And then even every interview that you go to, it's actually practice. Sometimes it's interviews that you may not really skills for, but go to it anyway. You would be surprised how your skill sets may mesh. It may be that your skill sets are totally off, but now you have new questions that you can practice for later on other interviews.
I live with multiple mental health challenges, anxiety, OCD, and post-traumatic stress disorder. And something I found really helpful is finding a good therapist to support you throughout this process is really important. So in addition to what Monica and Latanya said around finding those support systems, also finding a therapist to support you through this process. I've been going to therapy for 9 or 10 years now, and having someone to process through who is trained is really helpful. So I'm a coach and work with a lot of people who have mental challenges, but also recognizing the limitations of being a coach, the limitations of being a CHES, and saying, there are mental health challenges going on here. Here is an opportunity for you to work with a mental health therapist is really important as well. And then recognizing that recovery is possible if you live with a mental health challenge as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll also add that just with the pandemic, I feel like one good thing that has come out of the pandemic is that it has expanded the ways we've been able to communicate with each other beyond just in person, face-to-face, or even beyond just phone and email. There's so many digital and social networking opportunities that allow us to help network and build within our professional networks as well. LinkedIn is just one of them, but there are many others. So I would say finding a digital form of communication that perhaps you're more comfortable with, whatever your form of communication is that you feel most comfortable and confident in, utilize that to help build your network and to feel more comfortable practicing with those interviewing skills and that communication.
Wonderful. We have got a lot of questions coming in. So I do have one specifically for Kyle that was asked during his. I'm a current MPH student applying for jobs post-grad in May. Should I put the role I want to be in after graduation in that tagline? That's what they're referring to.
Yeah, so I'm a huge proponent of putting the role that you're looking for, because when sourcers, the people who look for talent, or recruiters, the people who often interview talent, are looking for people, they're going to look for the person who currently holds that role. So even, let's say for my partner, for example, and he wants to be a patient access manager, they're often on LinkedIn, or when they're looking for resumes, they're not going to look for your past role. They're often going to look for your current role. So you want to put that patient access manager. And really skilled sourcers or recruiters might look for that past role to say, someone who used to be a patient access supervisor wants to now be a manager. But oftentimes, if you're a student, you really want to put that target role. So then you pop up with people who have that current role, and then you can compete with them. And then second, someone had messaged me as well saying, oh, what if I have no experience? I disagree. I've yet to meet someone who graduated with a 4-year degree who does not have a wealth of experience. So I encourage people to put their student role as a position on their resume and say student 2014 to 2021 or whatever it may be, and then use the bullets to say, here's projects I worked on, here's internships I had, here's volunteer experiences, and really call those out and highlight everything you did. Your degree really at this stage in your career shouldn't be a line. It can be a half a page or a page on your resume highlighting all of the amazing stuff you've done throughout your college career.
Right. Few more. I know we're getting close to the time, but I'm going to ask a few more, and this is to the entire group. I struggle to find roles that align with my health education background and experience when just searching for the title health educator. What are some other good keywords or common job titles to look into?
So this is Monica. I would actually dwell more so into the areas of responsibilities, and then how it meshes back to, or how it connects back to the actual skill sets. Similar to what Latanya was saying, and also Stephanie, when you're looking for don't look always for the title. Look for how your skills connect with what it is that's being done. Because I will say that in my career journey, I haven't done like a cookie cutter health education, but those skills have transferred to every position that I have in one way or another. So really boost boost your confidence and your fabulousness in the skills that you have, match them, and then also change the wording. Just like Latanya was saying, if they're saying one word and it's worded a little bit different, just change it so they can pick up on those key words, because that's another way you'll really get those positions.
One assignment I often give my clients, building upon that, is to look at a few career websites. So go to apple.com's career page, go to City of Santa Barbara's career page, go to Kaiser's career page, and just go through all of their jobs and click the ones that are interesting, and then print them out and say, how many of these qualifications do I have? And you'll realize you often have a lot of them. What people get nervous about is they say, oh, I see this title, I may not have every single thing, but if you have 80-90% of it, go ahead and apply, and recognize the job titles are way different places. One place it could be an assistant, somewhere else a specialist, somewhere else a director. Move beyond those titles. And I love Latanya's idea of looking at that salary. I had never considered that, and I've been coaching for 8 years now. And I think that's genius to give you an idea of where that kind of role sits in the organization based on the pay. But really, if you look at some of these big orgs, they hire kind of for every role you can think of. So just going through beyond the title and just clicking ones of interest and seeing what they have in common can give you some really good ideas and give you ideas of the titles.
Great. We're going to get two more questions, so hang with us. The first is, here on the East Coast, it's all about being an RN, an MD, or a social worker. How can I be a superpower with a CHES?
Most of my clients are in tech, so my expertise is tech, but because I have a CHES, I end up working with a lot of CHES people. So my first piece of homework for you would be to write out, here are 10 things that make me fabulous because I'm a CHES. And here are 10 reasons to hire a CHES over an MD or an RN or whatever it may be. I give the same homework to my clients in tech who aren't engineers. Engineers are kind of the hot sauce in tech. And if you're not an engineer, you're kind of second tier a lot of the time. So anytime someone's not an engineer, I have them do this homework, and then they're like, oh my gosh, there's all this amazingness. So if you're a CHES, I would do that. Here's 10 reasons to hire a CHES over an MD. And it's not to say you're better or worse than an MD. It's just to help you realize all the unique things that set you apart from them. And then you can integrate those items in your cover letter, your resume, on LinkedIn, when networking, in your interviews.
And also how you can work alongside a clinical role as a CHES as well. So maybe not even why hire a CHES over an MD or an RN or a social worker, but how does a CHES complement that level of work? I know there's a lot of resources on the NCHEC website about how to compare CHES to public health, CHES to clinical practice. And it's getting used to speaking to the level of the 8 areas of responsibility and the types of skills that a CHES carries out and how those fit into the sector you're trying to work within. So maybe you are trying to work in a clinical setting, but being able to communicate how health education fits alongside those other roles. That would be the benefit of being able to communicate about the CHES.
Great. Last question. It's a good one. Probably heard it numerous times. Do you have any advice on how one can apply if they don't meet some of their requirements in the job description?
Do it anyway. I would say it's like Kyle was saying, even if you find that your experience is meeting maybe 80% of what's listed, or maybe what Latanya and Monica were describing about maybe a terminology is used differently in one sector versus another. Find a way to communicate how your experience does relate to that job description, even if you don't meet every single line item of it. I am a case in point in that. As you've heard from my experience, I've worked in so many different fields. You just have to learn how to communicate as a result of your experience. What are the biggest skill sets you have developed from your experience, and how do those skills translate to the role that you're applying for? That's how you can set yourself apart and still be able to make it align, even if you don't meet every single item in the description.
Anybody else have one last thought before I turn it over? All right. Well, thank you all presenters. And I'm going to turn it back over to Heather with Sophie, and she will talk about your continuing education.
Hi, everyone. I know there's been a lot of continuing education questions, and I was just answering a personalized one there as well. So we will be onboarding this within 48 hours to get you the recording in case you missed anything in the beginning or the end and you want to check back. You should be able to process the evaluation and all of the accompanying documents through Sophie's eLearn at Core in order to process your continuing education contact hour, which will be free. If you do not see an update on your transcript, you can always reach out to NCHEC on the NCHEC side, and at the Sophie side, you can reach out to education@sophie.org for more information. Quickly before you go, we do want to let you know that there is an additional upcoming webinar the next 3 days of this week during National Health Education Week. We are going to be presenting accessibility for online audiences. We have a wonderful panel for you tomorrow. To learn more about this live webinar, you can see our Sophie calendar for more information. Additionally, our Advocacy Summit 2021 is now archived or is still being archived and will be available for CE through September of 2022 if you're interested in accessing that on demand. Also, next year's annual conference will be opening registration soon, and it is virtual. So please keep in mind that could be one of those virtual events that Monica talked about earlier in the presentation, where you could continue to get that online and professional networking. Thank you for helping us spread the word, and we encourage you to visit the Sophie website for additional information. Lastly, while you browse our core catalog or content library, please check out the top 5 journal self-studies from 2021, and they are featured here. If you'd like to take a quick screenshot, this is another way that you can use our QR code to download this and check this out later. And last but not least, on behalf of Sophie, thank you so much to our presenters, our moderators, and all of you, our participants today. Once again, this webinar was recorded and will be archived within 48 hours on the Sophie's eLearn at Core. Please take a moment to complete the feedback survey following this webinar when you log off. And thank you so much for attending. This does end our session for today, so we will conclude here. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to Sophie at education@sophie.org, and we look forward to seeing you on the next webinar.